Hi, I'm Darcy and I am a dyslexia therapist. I work online with students who are struggling to become good readers. And what I usually do is I'm working with students who really haven't become good readers yet. I mean, they are really struggling. And I'm using the Take Flight curriculum, which is a well-researched program, and just going through the curriculum with them, and then hopefully having some time at the end to read a little bit with them. As they become able to read, we can read more and more things. Today I wanted to share with you something new that I am doing, because sometimes I have older students who can already read fairly well. And what I usually do is sometimes we go through the curriculum still at the same time to make sure that they know all of the rules of phonics and all of that stuff. But we also read more with older students. And I try to find a book that they are interested in. Maybe they're interested in horses, so we find a story to read about horses. But recently, a friend of mine said something that just made me start thinking. She said, why don't we read these important books with students, these books about, about your life and about being successful in life? And I thought, you're right. I mean, she was saying, if somebody had introduced those type of books to me when I was a kid, it would have changed my life, she said. And I just started thinking about that. And I decided to read with one of my older students, to read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens by Stephen Covey. And so that's what I'm doing with her, and I'm loving it. And she's enjoying it as well. And I just wanted to get on here this morning and tell you about it and tell you some of the advantages that of what we are doing and some of the reasons why I think it is such a great idea. So as we're reading, we can practice all of the things that we have been practicing anyway. We're practicing sounding out words. We're practicing fluency. We're practicing, so with this student, what she used to do is she would read fast. And if she came to a word that she didn't know, she just would say something that began with the same letters and say it really fast. It wasn't even a word that she was saying, but she said it really fast and just went on. And you didn't even know what happened. At the end of at the end of the paragraph when she was done, you were just like, wow, what happened? I mean, I can't believe she's already done. I don't know what she just read. I don't understand it. And she was having trouble with comprehension. You can probably imagine. So we have been working on pausing for commas, stopping for periods. It's okay if you don't know the word, you can slow down and sound it out. And how do we sound out those words? Some words are more complex, and those are the words that, of course, she would stumble over. So now we can practice those things as we're reading a book that has really important things to learn in life. So we're taking turns. She'll read for a while, and then I'll read for a while, so she has the chance to hear fluent reading as well. So I wanted to tell you about just the other day, last week, we were reading, and there were 2 words that that my student stumbled over, and we had to figure them out, and we couldn't just read them as fast as the other words. And so the next day when she came on, I brought those 2 words and we talked about them. And here's what they were. There was associate and initiative. And I've been working with this student for a little while, so we have already talked about these things. We already had talked about this, but I just reminded her that CI and TI, TI, this is the TI that I'm talking about here. CI and TI followed by another vowel are like a digraph that say shh. And it's only in it's only in multi-syllable words. These are Latin-based words, and they're never at the beginning of the word. It's always at the end, and it always has to be followed by another vowel. So I reminded her of those things we had already talked about. I also talked about the fact that if there's a vowel in front of TI or CI, it's going to be long, unless it's an I, in which case it's going to be short. So we just had that chance to be able to review this. So even though we're not just working on phonics and how to read things, we're reading a book and then we review these things. And then another really big advantage that I see to reading books with these kids is that here we read this sentence. And the sentence is, are you in the driver's seat of your life, or are you merely a passenger? And my student had not heard the word merely. She didn't know what that meant. And so, you know, when we have conversations and we're just talking to each other in everyday conversation, we don't use words like merely. So that's something that when you read books, you get a higher level of vocabulary. You learn more words. You are not just learning the words that you have in everyday conversation, because even the most well-educated, highly educated families, they don't use the same level of vocabulary that is in many books, even children's books. So that's why it's so important to read, and to read aloud to your children. If they can't already read it, you should be reading out loud to them so that they get that vocabulary. So we stopped and talked about merely. Another word that we've really talked about as we're reading this book is the word paradigm. That's a word that she was not familiar with, had never heard it before. And so we have learned paradigm. I mean, there's all kinds of words that you hear and that we don't dwell on, but those are two words that we have talked about as we're reading through this book. There's so many advantages to doing this, and I am also going to encourage her to get a notebook, and we're going to start taking notes and writing down stuff, because in this book he encourages you to make goals and think about what are your strengths and weaknesses. So we're going to be writing these things down, and then we can together talk about them and share each other's thoughts about our own strengths and weaknesses, about our goals, and how are we going to make these things happen, because we are going to be proactive. That's the first habit. We're going to be proactive, and we're going to plan and work towards our own success. And I'm so excited about this, and I just wanted to get on here today and tell you guys this is a great idea. You can do it with your kid too, or if you're interested, I can. I'd love to do it with them. I'm having a great time doing this. So here's my contact information if you're interested.